Give me 3 words to describe you at the age of 18.
3 words to describe me at the age of 18. Um, I would say selfish. Um, I was very um, afraid. I would say I was afraid, and I really didn't know who I was. So maybe like I had a lack of identity.
Okay. If you could have a conversation with the 18-year-old you, what would you start by saying?
Um, I would definitely talk her into like putting an emphasis on her education, and also um, listen to your mother. Found out later how much she cared about my future, and she would try in her own way to guide me down the right path. Um, but I would tell the younger me also to um, if you're gonna be adventurous, do it positively. So I think I did a lot of crazy things that didn't benefit me in the long run. Yeah, so you know, even down to picking friends, kind of friends I had, um, just not just knowing how much of a treasure I am or I was even then. I just didn't know who I was. I didn't know how um, just the mindset I actually had would have influenced my life a little differently. I think I had to learn the hard way in a few instances. So,
So, what made it so hard to listen to what your mother was telling you?
um, because I thought she didn't understand me. I thought she didn't understand what I was going through, who I was. I thought she was just trying to be hard on me. Um, and so I thought I knew better in a lot of instances, even something simple as go to school. So yeah, I went to school, but um, I didn't see the value, I guess, in myself enough to push myself in my education. So um, I would get there, and because of the people I was hanging with, I would cut classes. I ended up in fights that had nothing to do with me. I almost went to prison. I went to jail a couple of times, and I think I really had something to prove. So that's another thing. I would tell my younger self, you have nothing to prove to anybody else. But I made that a priority, I think. to be something opposite of what my mother was trying to tell me to be. Yeah.
So, what made that other life so intriguing to you?
Um, this is what I grew up around. I, grew up in church. And so I guess was kind of labeled the good girl. And we went to church and we were at church all the time. And so, but in my neighborhood, it was a different thing going on. You know, everybody wasn't trying to go to church. And they were trying to be in the streets and be wild and do other stuff. And because I really didn't know, I went to church. So it wasn't like I understood so much why we were going to church. I thought we went to church because we love God, and that's what people who love God do. They go to church. And because I didn't really understand a lot of it, I kind of saw it as, well, why I got to do that? Why I got to be the good girl when it wasn't that many good girls that I was hanging around. So I started changing. The changing it started happening maybe about 15. And, cutting class. I was in one of those little social clubs in the school. But then the social club I was a part of were like, I think full of people that, it's like they knew how to work the system. I didn't know. I was just trying to kick it, like, what are we doing next? But even when they were cutting class, they were still doing homework. Even though they were cutting class, they did a lot of the stuff that they were supposed to do. And so that left me, I got kicked out of school because I missed too many days. I got kicked out of high school. And I continued on trying to figure out my way. Like, okay, well, I guess this is, I'm here now. So I got my GED. And then at 18, that's pretty much when I found out I was pregnant with you. But that was after I almost did prison time. So 18 was kind of like a pivotal year. Like, okay, so you almost went to prison. So, how you gonna do right now? Oh, and by the way, you got a kid on the way.
So, was that moment when prison time was on the table, was that enough to shift your mind?
It was. It was in a way. I still was trying to hang out in the streets. But then I decided to, that was one of the um, things that I had to do. And so instead of going to prison for 2 to 5 years, I got 18 months probation and 2 months of home confinement. And one of the things the judge told me was that he was giving me another chance because it was my first offense. And so he wanted me to continue to work. And he said, you have to get your education. So I kind of believe that if it wasn't for the judge in a way too, to kind of make that a requirement for me, like you're going to get your GED or something. And so I did. And it took me a while to go back to college or go to college. So I would say Um, once I so I went to college starting in like '96. So you were born, and I worked and worked, and then I decided to go back to college. So I think almost going to prison is what really kind of shifted what I should be participating in.
So was there anyone around you who was like a voice of reason? Or who at least spoke to your potential?
Um, in a way, you mean as far as friends,
Friends
or
and
just
family.
adults?
Your
So,
surroundings.
um, let's see, around the age of 18. Well, I had one friend who she was annoyed at the friends that I had chosen to hang with. Um, and it wasn't that she was so perfect, but she, you know, she was so upset with me, even when I almost went to jail and I told her about it and I was laughing and she was like, that's stupid. And I was like, okay. But maybe a couple. The people I was hanging around, no. That I was hanging around, no. But um, I had a cousin. I remember before I even got caught up, I had a cousin tell me, she was like, "You gonna get caught." And I was like, "No, I'm not, shut up," or whatever. And I got caught in some shenanigans. And then I had this one cousin who told me, cause she just didn't like the lifestyle I tried to live, hanging in the streets, becoming a part of a gang. Um, and I think because she had never grown up, she had never been around those types of crowds. Like she grew up in a rough area, and then earlier on they moved to the suburbs, and so she was just like, "What are you doing?" And I remember telling her I was in a gang, and she said, "What?" "I'm telling your mama." And I was like, "You better not tell my mom. You better not tell my mom." You know. And she was like, "Well, I don't like it. I want you to stop. I want you to stop hanging around them." And I was just like, man, whatever. You know. So there were a few people that tried to be voices of reason and, tried to get me to see that what I was doing um, was not going to benefit me at all. Um, yeah.
So what do you think would have happened if that judge, if you didn't get caught that day? What do you think would have happened if you did not get caught the day everything went down that resulted in possible prison time?
If he had sent me to jail.
You know what I'm saying? If you didn't get caught at all, like if
Oh.
you would have completed whatever you were supposed to do, what do you feel would have happened if you didn't get caught?
I probably would have kept going. I probably would have continued to live the gang life. And because I had something to prove, I probably would have had no boundaries in the stuff that I would have taken part in, you know. And it's crazy because I think about that sometimes, like, wow, I probably would have been like this drug dealer, you know, and because I had something to prove, I probably would have been, you know, had some ranks in the gang world, and um, it just would have gone way too far. Yeah, I would have been a drug dealing, um, just just living the life of crime, you know, because it's like a muscle. If you keep doing stuff, you know, living in a life of crime, you keep doing it over and over. After a while, you start to get less scared, even, you know, a little more desensitized to what the consequences would be. So,
So, did any of the things that you did in your life, like your teen years, did any of that cause you to have some type of fear regarding raising your own children?
absolutely. I thought I was going to be a horrible mom. I was afraid when I was pregnant with my first child. I was afraid. I thought that, you know, I didn't make enough money. I didn't think I would be able to provide, you know. I was afraid that she was going to be, you know, just follow the path I took or even worse. And so, um, that was tough. And that even caused me to go a little bit further um, in pursuing my relationship with God. Like, it pushed me because I'm like, okay, you need to get it together, you know, even more, you know. And the one cousin who said she was going to tell my mama, she really like stepped in to try to help guide me along the path of salvation, I would say. And so I really appreciated her for that, because that's when I told myself, I said, well, I just may, you know, go ahead and pursue God like I need to, because the way I'm trying to live ain't working, you know. So it's not that I became perfect after that, but I became a little more selective on just the type of things that I was a part of, and the groups of people that I hung around. You know, I didn't want to live the life of crime anymore. Um, Even though I still kind of hung around a couple of criminals ever so often. I don't know what intrigued me about their life, but I never fully separated myself from some of those people, you know. But I just didn't do a lot of the stuff they did, you know. And I come to think of it, I never really did fit in. Like, as much as I tried to, I had one of the um, leaders, I would say, in the gang. I remember her saying, like, you like a conservative, you know, gangster. And because of the way I dressed, you know, a lot of times I would be leaving the little meetings to go meet my mom at church. You know, just crazy stuff. Like, what are you doing here? I remember having a fight and I had on some dress shoes. You know, like it's crazy with the dress shoes with the emblem on it. On the yes, I had some dress shoes and a skirt, and I slammed somebody at school. At the no, well, not at school, but actually, I slammed her at a bus stop. But I had on a skirt and dress shoes. So you know, it was like crazy stuff like that that should have really told me, like, girl, what are you doing? What are you doing out here? What are you trying to do? So yeah, but like I said, I still had something to prove. Um, but it really was, I think, the attempt at trying to belong. You know, which is what most people who join gangs do. They're trying to find a place to belong. You know, and that's kind of like what I did.
What do you think 18-year-old Nish needed then?
I needed direction. I needed for someone to actually take me by the hand and say, hey, this is what life is about, and I'm going to teach you. I'm going to show you how to make decisions or good decisions for yourself. I'm going to teach you that how education will impact your future. I'm going to teach you that your body belongs to God, and then you can make a decision to keep it to yourself. You know, hey, here's what Jesus is about. Here's what Christianity is about. You know, but I think it was more or less about going to church. So I didn't have a real understanding. Yeah.
So how would you, or how have you used what you learned from your mistakes then to steer your children in the right direction?
Oh, we have like the most honest conversations. Um, but what I had to learn how to do, I was trying to do that initially, um, but because I didn't know how to heal, I was trying to make healed decisions or, you know, trying to steer my children in a good way, but my sight was off. You know what I'm saying? The way I saw things was off. Was very dysfunctional. So once I decided to heal, um, it was more apparent how much my healing would impact my children. So um, just being able to have those conversations and answer questions and being transparent about a lot of the stuff I have experienced or am experiencing, even during my healing, you know. And so I really believe that me making that decision for myself is what is really helping steer my children down the right path. But sometimes you can pass on, you know, just a skewed perspective to your children. You know, pass on your own little fears and your own dysfunction to your children. And then it's almost inevitable that they'll make the same decisions you made. You know, that whole do as I say, not as I do. That don't always work. Children, you gotta show them. You gotta show them.
Do you think that 18, or how do you think 18-year-old Nish would respond seeing how you are at this age?
I think 18-year-old Nish would be intimidated by who I am today. She would wonder, like, how did you get here? How did you make that decision? What, you know, because my I couldn't see beyond where I was really. I used to say stuff like, I want to get married and have children and have my career, and I thought about college, but, and then I said, I'm going to be saved. So it's like, I'm going to be saved. I'm going to, get married and I'm going to have children. And those were like my three goals. And so to see me now and be like, what? How you got kids with no? How you got kids with no husband? You got a career and you are living for the Lord, but where's the rest of it? You know. So I think she would also be a little bit disappointed. You know. But then also the way I would think back then is like I would say stuff like, well, well, at least you got your career. At least you're able to take care of them kids. That's how I would think a lot of times. So I always tried to be optimistic, um, even in the most crazy, depressing moments.
Okay. And, well, how do you maintain optimism in those moments where you're not the most proud of yourself?
Um, well, it's really coming from a different place now. Then it was optimism. Now, it's more just knowing the promises that I've read about from God, and then seeing him fulfill a lot of those promises for my life. And so it's more like a faith thing now as opposed to being optimistic. Um, so that's what keeps me now. A lot of my drive, I guess, would come from artificial places. So, whether it was belonging or doing something well, because I still was a perfectionist even though I was doing wrong. So it's like, being good at something and, you know, making sure I help people. And, so a lot of the validation I found was external.
What three words would you use to describe you now?
Um, I would say I have so much more direction. So um, I do have direction now. Um, and I would say passionate And also, I would say understanding, um, because I didn't know I was back then. I have more of a clear picture of who I am and what I have to offer the world now, you know. Um, so it's been a little different. The whole journey, the whole process to it has been really hard. Um, but because I've been able to, I guess my perspectives have changed. So I'm no longer looking through some of those goggles I was wearing back then, blinders, as they called them, or scales. A lot of those have fallen. And so I have like a clearer perspective on who I am and who God is.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.